I'm Julie, and this video is part of a general biology lecture series. And in this video, I'm going to talk about the cell membrane and membrane transport. Okay, let's go. So all cells have a cell membrane. Let me get my pen. So we've got a fungal cell, has a cell membrane. Animal cell membrane. Plant cell membrane. So all eukaryotic cells have cell membranes. Bacterial cell also has cell membrane. So all prokaryotic cells, including bacteria, also have cell membranes. Okay, so what is a cell membrane? So cell membrane is a boundary between the inside of the cell, the cytoplasm, and the outside of the cell, so extracellular fluid. Or in the case of a bacteria, the inside of the bacteria and the environment, the outside of the bacteria. Okay, so I'm going to concentrate mostly on eukaryotic cells, the cell membrane of eukaryotic cells. So, okay, cell membrane is a boundary between the inside and the outside. Cell membrane is dynamic. It can change depending on its needs or its environment. So it can change shape. An example would be blood cells that can change shape to get through blood vessels or to be able to get between cells. Okay, let's see, what else? It's also semi-permeable. What does that mean? It means that it can let some things go through and while keeping other things out or keeping other things in. Some things can go through and some things can't go through. Also, it has receptors. So on the outside of the cell membrane, there are receptors to be able to communicate. Okay, so what is it made up of? The cell membrane is made up of biological macromolecules. So you know these. So our biological macromolecules that we've studied already, lipids and carbohydrates, and proteins, and nucleic acids do play a part. In the form of ATP. So ATP is used as energy to transport substances across the cell membrane. Okay, so all of our biological macromolecules are involved in the cell membrane. Let's see. Cell membrane is considered a cell membrane model. It's considered to be fluid mosaic. What do I mean by that? Fluid. Well, it's because right here, our cell membrane is made up of phospholipid molecules in the form of a bilayer. So here is, right here, a phospholipid molecule, and each of these in here is a phospholipid molecule. And it's made, the cell membrane is made up of 2 layers of these. And because it's a lipid, it's almost like an oil, that it's fluid. And a mosaic because there's many things in it besides the phospholipid molecule. There's also proteins and glycoproteins. Glyco means sugar in this case, so it's a sugar protein molecule. Or there's also, let's see, lipids, glycolipids. Oh, here, glycolipids. And there's also cholesterol. Here it is right here, cholesterol. Okay. Yeah. So, and proteins. I mentioned proteins, right? Yeah. Okay. So protein channels, of course. So right, it's a mosaic of lots of different things. Okay. So our phospholipid molecule has a non-polar end and a polar end, which means that there is a charge on these heads. These balls are all the phospholipid heads, and these are all the tails. And it sets it up so that the heads are on the outside because they have a charge and they're attracted to each other. And the tails are a lipid and they're nonpolar with no charge and they're attracted to each other. So it sets up this phospholipid bilayer. And that helps to keep molecules from going through, such as a charged molecule, like an ion, say a sodium ion is charged. So that sodium ion cannot get through the non-polar center, the tails in the center of the membrane. Or big molecules like glucose cannot get through. But little molecules can. And we're going to talk more about that. So little molecules that are not charged can actually get through. Okay, so let's see. So on the surface of the cell membrane, here is a glycoprotein. So there's a protein and a sugar molecule sticking out. And it's these are receptors, so they're used for communicating outside of the cell. In this case right here, a virus is taking advantage of that and hooking up to this glycoprotein receptor and fooling the receptor into thinking that it's self. So a receptor helps to communicate, to identify self. If the cell comes from, or the molecule, or if it comes from the same individual, or if it doesn't. And if it doesn't, then it can mount an attack. But if it does, then it lets it in. But the virus fools it into believing that it's part of self and actually lets it into the cell. It's a very simplified version, but that's basically what happens. Okay. Let's see. Let's go back to our cell membrane. So what types of things can we find in here? Let's go into that in a little bit more detail. Okay, we have our cholesterol. So what does the cholesterol do in here? So it provides support. Where are they? These things right here. Like I mentioned, that the cell membrane is like an oil. So instead of, I mean, you wouldn't want it just to be an oil goo. So cholesterol is really important, and it allows for a little bit more support inside that cell membrane. It also acts like an antifreeze. So in animals in colder environments, it acts as an antifreeze so that it doesn't freeze. Okay. The other thing that's really important in a cell membrane are the proteins. So these right here, they can act as channels or pumps to allow molecules to get through that are either too big, like our glucose, or are charged, like our sodium ion. They can also act as attachments. So down here you can see that here's our cytoskeleton down here inside the cytoplasm, and the cytoskeleton is attached to some of these proteins. What else? Oh, so recognition sites. Yeah. So they can be recognition sites on the surface. Okay, what else do we have in here? Carbohydrates. So our glycoproteins sticking out of the membrane. Let's see. Okay, so that's our cell membrane. We've got our phospholipid molecules making up our phospholipid bilayer. We've got proteins, we've got cholesterol, we've got glycoproteins and glycolipids. Now, what we need to figure out is how do molecules get through this membrane that need to get through? How does food get in, and how does waste get out? Okay, thank you. I hope you found that interesting.